The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 84 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Wednesday, October 24th, 2018. I'm your host, Eric Young. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, James Cush. James, apparently I didn't fix the issue with the intro from last week. I completely forgot about it. So it cut off fast again, but here we are.
Here we are. It's okay. If we started this podcast perfectly, something else would go wrong at any point anyway. So
something will go wrong at some point, so we might as well get it out of the way right off.
That's right. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, so... All right, so I don't even know where to start. This is the opposite of our normal issue. Just not a very exciting weekend at Kansas this weekend. A race that's become, kind of like a Talladega race where you never know what's going to happen. We talked about last week. We've had red flags in the last 3 races. And we only got cautions for stage breaks, and that was it this week.
Yeah, it was it was the complete opposite of the Roval as far as elimination races are concerned. There was the only thing interesting I feel like that happened was Kevin Harvick stubbed his toe on the way to the pits, and Chase Elliott got the W. Yeah,
well, and I think what made this race anything is the fact that it was a cutoff race. Had this not been a cutoff race, this race was a disaster. This race was Kentucky quality from earlier this summer without that elimination. But because of it being an elimination race, it made it a little bit more interesting. It had some question marks. You had Kyle Larson making the run at the end. I will admit I watched probably half of the race and did a lot of skipping through the last stage looking for cautions and then realizing there wasn't going to be one. But I did watch the tail end of it. And Larson gave it a good shot there at the end, but wasn't able to get up there quite enough. And Chase Elliott becomes, here's a stat for you. So let me pull up my stats here. Make sure I'm in the right spot here. I am not.
I'm just glad Chase Elliott won in the Mountain Dew scheme, which I think is the best paint scheme I've seen in at least a decade.
Yeah, and that's the first time Mountain Dew has won as a primary sponsor since Darrell Waltrip did it.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
What a great stat.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you sponsor Dale Jr. for that long. But anyway, I can't hate on Jr. I love Jr. All right, so here's what I wanted to pull up. So Chase Elliott won his first race 22 at Watkins Glen. We are entering race 33, so we've had 10 races. In those 10 races, Chase Elliott has won 3 times. Kevin Harvick has won once. Kyle Busch has won once. Martin Truex Jr., 0. Where the heck are the big 3? And you've got in the notes is Chase Elliott. Where do we rank him with those guys? He's got to be in the conversation, right?
I think he might be. I don't want to say
he's not the favorite. There's no way he's a favorite.
Well, and with Brad Keselowski bowing out,
right,
and now Larson bowing out too, those are, and Blaney. I mean, those actually are 3 pretty good, bullets in the chamber.
Right.
Why not? Why can't Chase Elliott win Martinsville and lock himself in right away?
Well, it's not even that. You got Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott's great at Martinsville, so we got Martinsville to look at. And what about we've got Phoenix too, which who knows what Phoenix is going to be like because it's
either
sort
going
of
to be
a
Kevin
different
Harvick,
track, but it's not.
Oh yeah. The not really a reconfiguration, but
they just moved the start-finish line.
Yeah, restructuring, I guess.
But it's going to affect it. Restarts are going to be totally different.
Yep.
Once the green flag's out, it's not really going to matter. But on a restart, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, it's either going to be a Kevin Harvick annihilation of everybody, or it could get really wild. So it's either one of those two.
Here's my problem with Kevin Harvick. I'll tell you what, Harvick has had an amazing season. He's had an excellent car, but Harvick could have won twice as many races as he has.
Yep, and that's been the story since he's joined that team. That's been the story.
So Harvick has the speed. His car is that far ahead of everybody else, but as long as they don't beat themselves, and they've even had a couple times when they've beaten themselves and been fast enough to still get the win. But
Right.
I mean,
Here's my count.
can he be perfect? Can that team be perfect in
At
one
Homestead?
race when they need to?
He's done it before, so I feel like they could do it again. And
I feel like
here's-
they're
here's-
way less consistent this year though than
well,
when he did it before.
here's my counter argument to that.
Okay.
What's he really racing for at this point?
True.
He's been pretty much locked in to the next round. He locked himself into the first round just basically by showing up and gaining a couple of points in stage 1.
Right.
So, I mean, he's, are they gambling a little bit more maybe here and there? I don't know, but I think when they get to Homestead, that team will be ready.
Yeah.
I don't worry as much about Kevin Harvick as I would for mostly anybody else. They've done it before.
So, and I mean, lately the guy to capitalize when Harvick messes up has been Chase Elliott.
Heck yeah, man.
So, I don't know. I think Chase is in the conversation. I mean, I've had him in the conversation before he won the race. I mean, I honestly have thought that he was going to be, a contender in the championship.
And I was messaging with our good buddy Todd, friend of the pod.
There you go.
He messaged me on Facebook, and I messaged him back, and I said I was not prepared for Chase Elliott to finally figure it out before the start of the playoffs, but he's done it.
I didn't expect him to get 3 wins this year.
Well, and
I certainly expected him to get 1.
Yeah, but winning on a mile and a half,
right?
That is his most impressive win thus far.
Yeah, it shows you that I mean, obviously Hendrick's turning things
there.
around.
Yep, the speed's there.
Hendrick's turning things around. It's never been, a horsepower problem. It's always seemed to have been aero or whatnot.
Yep.
And they finally got what they need figured. I mean, they're still not in Stuart Haas category. They're not in Kevin Harvick territory, but they're close enough.
But they got a puncher's chance every time they show up now.
Yep.
They really do. I mean, any given Sunday, like we saw this weekend, Kevin Harvick stubs his toe, and there he is. He's there.
Yep.
Kind of the same position Brad Keselowski was in just a few short weeks ago.
Right.
Brad really wasn't the fastest car, but he was right there and capitalized. And Chase Elliott's doing the exact same thing now. He's capitalizing on every opportunity.
Right. Trying to think here where I want to go next, because there's a lot to talk about. So let's talk about, and I'm totally going off notes here, like
that's completely. All right.
So another one that I think you need to consider when we're looking at, and we'll talk more about the race. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this race, guys.
We'll
talk about the Clint Boyer thing in a second, but other than that, it's really about who's still in the playoffs because the race was not really much of anything. So the other one that I think we need to look at that could be interesting is Joey Logano. So
dang it, that was my. So before the podcast, I said I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay,
and that was my question.
So we'll go ahead. What's the question?
My question is why not Joey?
So
why not?
Here's the thing with Joey that you have to consider. First of all, I've been high on Joey making a run for a championship for the last 3 years.
Yes.
I believe he was my pick last year to win the championship.
I recall you picking him a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. Like he's been your guy,
right? And they're getting their stuff figured out a little bit. But here's the thing: when you get Brad Keselowski out, all that energy. I mean, Keselowski's out, Blaney's out. All that energy is going towards Joey Logano. Not only that, but they were talking on Sirius today, I think, that when the IndyCar season is done, they move all the IndyCar guys over to the NASCAR side too and get them working toward the championship if they've got a car in the race.
Team effort, baby.
So I'll tell you what, there's a lot of resources that are going to go into one car and Joey Logano. And who knows, man?
Well, he led 100 laps at Kansas, and Kansas mimics Homestead in a lot of ways. And we've seen Joey right there at Homestead for the championship before. That didn't end as well for him on a late restart.
Right.
But he's been there, and he was in a couple of the the first couple of years we had the Final Four at Homestead. He's been there a few times himself. So if anybody knows how to navigate this thing, it's Joey.
Yeah, you will.
He knows how to get there, and on top of that, he's not that bad at Martinsville. I mean, I don't know if he's. And the funny thing with him is he's only won one race this year, but he's been probably the most consistent guy out there.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's good at Martinsville. I mean, he hasn't pissed off Matt Kenseth this year, so that's good.
Yeah.
I
Yep, we
mean,
don't want
wasn't
that.
he running up front when that happened?
He was leading the race.
Yeah. So I
And
mean,
yes, 2015.
yeah. So I'm gonna make a slight amendment because my Chase grid got screwed up for the final four.
Yeah, we're all screwed up.
Yeah, with Keselowski not making it in. So my final four was Kyle Busch, Harvick, Keselowski, and Chase. I'm just going to replace Keselowski with Logano. That's my pick for the final four. I still say, I'm sorry. I know Truex he's got a 23-point advantage, but it ain't happening, man. They have not performed.
He barely got through Kansas. He was on the bubble.
Yep. I mean, yeah, he was right there on the bubble. I don't know that you're going to be able to. I don't think he's going to be able to points his way in. I think Kyle can points his way in.
Somebody's going to win.
Yeah, I mean Kyle or Harvick, one person can points their way in because they have to.
And it'll be Harvick. If anybody does, it's Harvick. I mean, he's been pointing his way through the entire playoffs at this point. He's just been solid. Right.
So I'd be surprised, James. Harvick's going to win in these next 3 weeks.
Well, and Harvick, like we were talking about before, Harvick has led. So I saw this stat today. He's led nearly 50% of the laps in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's won. I think he's won 4 stages in each of the first 2 rounds or something like that.
He has 4 stage wins according to NASCAR.com.
Yeah, so he's banking even more playoff points going forward. He's just been accumulating numbers.
Right.
He's just not been taking the checkered flag.
So I think Harv gets a win in these last 3. I think.
Yeah, probably Texas. Yeah. I would say if anything, he's going to be fast there. He's going to be wicked fast.
I mean,
won Texas last year.
I guess the best thing Truex can hope for is that both Kyle and Kevin get a win.
Yep.
And then maybe he can points his way in. But I think if one of those guys doesn't get a win, he's gonna have a hard time getting it in.
If he shows up at Texas fast, I mean it's not
going to happen. He will not win Texas.
Yeah, he's just not.
Not to mention he's not good at Martinsville.
No,
Martinsville is not his track. So he's going to start it with this 23-point advantage he's got. Going to be over with when he leaves Martinsville.
Well, and if Chase Elliott goes and wins Martinsville and as good as he's been lately, that's definitely feasible.
Yep.
There's now you're down to 1 spot available with Busch and Harvick feasibly, so it could get really tight in 1 week, and and that's all we're gonna be talking about for 2 weeks going into Phoenix after Texas.
Right. I want to talk more about the who we got and who fell out and whatever. But let's hit on this Clint Bowyer thing first. So there was a non-call made on Clint Boyer's car on a pit stop. Tire got away, rolled into the next pit stall. NASCAR says, well, here we go. I'll let Steve O'Donnell explain what NASCAR's call was on it, and then we can discuss afterwards. So here's what Steve O'Donnell had to say.
As the rule stands, it's if the tire is controlled until it gets to the inside of the pit box. So that's kind of the first part. And then it is allowed to cross into an adjacent pit box. So that happened in both those cases. And then it can't impede another car. So in this case, if Clint would have been pitting, there's another car right in front of him, and it somehow had messed up the stop of that car, that would have been a penalty. So you can almost say the stars aligned for the 14 car there because it was open, and they were able to get that car or get the tire halfway back. And then obviously that was a no call on our end with the circumstances that surrounded it. We'll review all of those calls, but it's one of those, we never want to have to make a call. And the arm's length is really when you're on the car side of pit road in terms of a tire getting away or a tire getting hit. So, if you've made that move back towards the wall and it's in control, you have that in a more safe position. So that's always something we'll look at. This year it's new in terms of the number of pit crew members and how we do it. So certainly something we'll review, but that'll be kind of consistent through how we call it for the remainder of the season.
Thoughts, James?
I'm okay with his explanation. Sounds more like a balls and strike call to me than a black and white rule.
I think it's a blown call. I think it's a blown call, and it's NASCAR covering their butts. I'm sorry, I swear.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
This has been called in the past. And here's my thing. The point of the rule, what is the point of the rule? Safety. NASCAR says safety. We've gotten rid of an extra member over the pit wall this year because of safety. We created this rule that everything needs to be in contact because of safety. We created the rule that nothing can leave the pit box because of safety. It's not safe to have a tire rolling. I'm sorry. That if you're going to make a rule, stick with the rule. I think it's a blown call. Nothing against Clint, but I'm sorry. It should have been a call.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. I guess I'm okay with it either way. The way Steve explains it is fine.
It's fine until it happens differently next week. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's,
don't get me wrong. NASCAR's not the most consistent at calls. We discussed it last week at Talladega.
Yep, never have been, never will be.
Right.
So,
and it is a spur. It is a spur of the moment call. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
I mean, I understand.
And if you're making calls like that, balls and strikes, you can't go back and fix it.
Right.
It's just a bang bang play, and that's the same thing. And every sport has that.
Yep.
It's like the NFL when a guy gets catches a pass over the middle, and there's he quickly goes to protect himself, but he gets hit in the head, by the defender. It could go either way.
So my thing is I don't fault NASCAR for blowing the call. It happens. Everybody.
Yeah, blown calls happen.
Every sport, there's blown calls. I fault NASCAR and not just saying, yeah, we screwed up. That's not the way the rule. Maybe that's the way the rule is written, but it's not the way the rule is intended. We want to keep the crew members safe. We should have called that. In the future, we'll call it. But no, he's saying in the future we're not going to call that.
It could be that simple, but NASCAR's never been known to be that simple.
Yeah, when was the last time NASCAR admitted they screwed up on something?
I can't recall.
It's been that long, huh? All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the 8 that made it in. We lost Keselowski, Larson, Blaney, and Bowman. At the end of this round. James, you got on the notes surprises, disappointments. I guess. I mean, I think Keselowski's probably the biggest surprise. I really thought he was going to squeeze his way in there.
He's the big disappointment of this round.
I mean, Larson's a disappointment too.
He's a disappointment. You know what? I'm done with.
I didn't mean it that way, but I kind of do.
Well, here's my thing about Kyle Larson. We can talk him up, and we have on this podcast, and I'm probably the most guilty one of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk him up and talk that, and talk down other drivers like Chase Elliott, but I don't want to hear any more about Kyle Larson until he does something. In this series. I'm done. I'm sick of it, man.
Yeah. Kyle Larson's big accomplishment is that he won at a bunch of D-shaped tracks in a row.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yep. And it's not just Kyle Larson. It's that entire organization.
Right.
I don't want to hear anything.
That's the thing.
I don't want to hear anything.
I think you put Kyle Larson in a different car, it's a different deal.
Could be, but we don't know that.
I'm sorry. Right now, I mean.
Yep. If I'm going to come on this podcast and give Chase Elliott a hard time like I have about not closing races, Kyle Larson deserves, and the entire organization deserves, to be crushed for the season that they put forth this year. You can't take a step back like this and expect to, I don't know, that he's too good. he's too good of a talent to just meddle around this every time this year.
Well,
and
here's the deal. And thank you for talking long enough to give me a chance to look up the stat to make sure I was right.
Yes.
So Kyle Larson has 5 wins. Chase Elliott has 3.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chase Elliott's more impressive to me right now.
Well, right now,
not just because he's won 3 in the last 10 races, but in general. I mean, just looking at it, Chase has won on more of a variety of tracks at this point than Larson has. I mean, Larson's out of those 5 wins, 4 are on D-shaped tracks?
3 at Michigan and 1 at California and 1 at Richmond.
Right. So, I mean, there you go. So, really, who cares? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been there. Great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that have been there.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Kyle Larson's been closer, I guess, as a title contender, if you can say that. But his last year was really bad when he didn't make it.
But he hasn't been closer as a title contender because Chase almost made it to the Final Four last year.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Larson has had the higher peak, but he hasn't gone as far as even Chase.
And let's look at Homestead last year. He had the fastest car. He's coming through the field. He's at the track that he should win at, and he wasn't able to pull it through there. And whether that was because he lifted or not, he still hasn't been able to finish it, man. And that's been Larson's problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend him anymore.
No.
He needs to get it done next year.
I'm with you. I'm done with this whole greatest driver thing too. He needs to get his
I
crap
love
together.
watching him drive. He's a great talent, and if I had to pick a driver based off of talent, I'd probably pick Larson over almost anybody. But
Well, I'll tell you what, if I had an
wanna hear
open
about it.
ride and I owned a team like, I don't know, Stuart Haas,
yeah,
I could tell you one
Yeah.
driver I'd be looking for.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get him out of that 42 car, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear anything about Kyle Larson anymore until he makes the leap.
Yep.
Like Chase Elliott has made the leap
Yes.
into a little bit higher status.
Yeah, I think
Larson-
Chase
Larson's
is
stuck
legit
in-
now.
Yeah, Chase is a legit title contender at this point right
In
now.
all three of these races, none of them have been luck-in wins.
Yep.
So
And Larson shouldn't have made it to the round of 12.
right,
He should have been eliminated in the first round.
right, that's true. That's true.
And he just got here by chance, and he made a good drive out of it on Sunday, but it wasn't enough.
So one more thing I wanted to look at with the 8 that we have. Let me get back to the right screen here, though, because I kind of clicked way off. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I was thinking about my bracket too, because you had brought up. We all did our picks. I have 6 out of the 8 getting through, but I had Larson and Keselowski in my final 4, so I think I might be out of the running at this point.
Yeah, I have Keselowski.
I think Todd's the only one who's got the final 4 still intact.
Yeah, mine are Keselowski and Larson are both my. So I'm 6 out of 8 as well.
Yep.
So one other thing I wanted to point out. So here's the 8 that we've got: Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, and then Clint Bowyer, Joey Logano, Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola. Obviously Almirola gets in with that win at Dega. That helps him quite a bit. I did one interesting thing, and I want to say this is the first time it's happened, but I don't know. I wasn't able to look back. All 8 of these drivers have won this year.
Oh, that's a good stat.
Every one of these drivers has got a win this year. So you're not going to get the Ryan Newman deal where you got one guy racing in the Final 4 that hasn't won this season. Everybody has won a race this year, which is interesting in a year when so many races were won by Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr. And we started the season going, is anybody else going to win a race?
Right.
Totally interesting that we got 8 drivers that have won in the final 8. So
yeah, that is very cool. There's a couple of, and that between that and SHR getting 4 cars,
all 4.
filling out half of the semifinal. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I feel like that is, I don't know. I just can't believe that they got all 4 through.
It's not even that, but there is a guarantee, 100% guarantee that there will be a Ford racing for the championship at Ford Championship weekend.
Yeah, and Ford's got to be excited about that.
Is there are 5
5
Fords
your 5th.
in?
Yep,
So.
Logano's your 5th Ford.
Yep.
And then you've got 2 Toyotas and a Chevrolet.
Yeah, that lone Chevy. So.
Yep.
It's interesting. Very
Yeah, that
interesting.
Chevy might be the most dangerous one out of anybody at this
Could
point.
be. I don't see Chase pulling it off and getting the championship.
No, I really can't see anybody except for Kevin Harvick right now.
I'm Harvick, or if Harvick screws up, Kyle's going to be there to capitalize.
If Stewart, I'll say this: Harvick's the one. But if Stewart Haas as an organization does not win this championship, that's going to be a massive disappointment.
Yeah.
That's the organization, no matter who it is. It could be Almirola, it could be anybody. But if that organization does not find a way to bring home the big trophy, that's going to be a massive disappointment. As successful as they've been all year long.
Totally agree.
Yep. They could get, I mean, it's possible. They could get, I don't think all 4 would get to the homestead. But can you imagine if all 4 got that? Wouldn't that be sweet? If
There's no way. You basically would have to have Almirola,
they'd all
Kurt,
have to win.
and Clint win. Yeah.
Yeah, Kurt, Clint, and Almirola would have to win a race.
Yeah. And then Harvick would have to finish ahead of Kyle.
Yeah. It's feasible, but my God, it was a long shot. I wish I could go to Vegas and bet that.
Yeah, I'm glad I can't, because I would lose money on that deal, because there's no way it's going to happen.
No, but it would be cool to see if they could do it.
All right. Anything else on Kansas? I don't even have the results pulled up here, but anybody we need to hit on? Anything interesting else there? I mean, your playoff drivers all finished top 20.
There's not much that sticks out.
Yeah. William Byron blows a motor. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if that was a test motor. Of course, he did the same thing at Charlotte testing this week. So But who knows what they're trying in that car?
Yeah.
That's test car the rest of the year. So
Yeah. I got some funny stats on Eric Jones.
okay.
Really quick, if it would just load for me. So he was the hottest driver coming into the playoffs, right?
Right.
Everybody was like, "Oh man, Eric Jones." And so, hold on just a second here. Come on, computer. Come on. I wanted to get his finishes of the playoffs. Anyway, what is going on with him is he was the hottest driver heading into the playoffs. So he gets to the round of 16. And we started what? It started at Vegas, right?
Mhm.
He sits on the pole at Vegas. From there, he goes at Vegas. He finishes 40th, then 11th, and then 30th to be eliminated. And then he goes 4-8-4.
He's doing the Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, he is doing the Denny Hamlin. Let's get yourself eliminated early, and then see what's going on.
Yeah, nice.
After that. But yeah, too bad for Eric Jones because he actually could have been an interesting test case here. But what could have been? There's a few guys that could have been the what could have been category.
It's always next year, unless you're Jamie McMurray
Or Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. All right. Anything else? I think that takes care of Kansas.
Let's leave Kansas in the dust.
Put that in a rearview mirror. So it's kind of a quiet week this week. Not a whole lot in the news. So we'll bust through it kind of real quick here. James, you get the first one on this Steve Phelps deal.
Yeah, so we mentioned Nate Ryan's NASCAR on NBC podcast quite often on our podcast. It's one of our favorites. But he had Steve Phelps on, and Steve hinted at possibly down the road, IRL and NASCAR could have doubleheader weekends.
And by IRL, you mean IndyCar, because it hasn't been IRL for a few years.
I know, not IRL. I still refer to it as IRL.
Yeah.
So the Winston Cup Series and CART will get together. Yes. So yeah, Indy and NASCAR on the same weekend at the same track.
I think it's excellent.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen.
Yeah.
You know what would be the best place to do that?
Where's that?
Indianapolis.
Yeah, that'd be a good place.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Would that help the Brickyard 400?
Oh, you run the Brickyard 400 on Saturday, and you run the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday.
I never see it happening. I think the only way this works.
No, Indy would never taint their day.
It's not even that. NASCAR is not going to be the support series.
No.
Not with the Cup Series. The Cup Series will not be a support series, and rightfully so. I mean, there's more people, that follow NASCAR than IndyCar. The Indy 500 is the only time when NASCAR would play second fiddle to IndyCar.
NASCAR, yeah, and NASCAR it's been creeping up to becoming the second fiddle on that day.
Yeah.
With the 100th anniversary of the Indy 500 and everything, it's really taken on its own thing. So, yeah, that would be the Ryan McGee dream of the Motorsports World Series, which they could run the dirt track, on Friday, Cup Series on Saturday, Indy 500 on Sunday.
Move the Xfinity cars back to ORP or IRP or whatever they call it this year.
Yep, get the Xfinity cars the heck out of there.
Yep, I'd be on board with that. I'd be on board with all of that.
But I'd encourage anybody just to go listen to that podcast. Steve's got a lot of good nuggets on there. They've had, I guess they've had some meetings in this type of discussion before, but nothing too serious yet. But it's been discussed.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I think it's pretty obvious we'd likely see it at one of the SMI tracks, because I don't know that IndyCar runs at many of the ISC tracks anymore, do they? I mean, not that couldn't happen. But
off the top of my head, I know they run. I'm trying to think of the big tracks they run. It's Texas.
I guess they do run Iowa, which is a NASCAR track, not ISC.
Yep, they run Iowa. They run Texas. They run Richmond, right? Don't they still run Richmond?
No, they haven't run Richmond in a few years.
No, they run Pocono.
They do run Pocono.
Gosh, I'm trying to think. Sonoma. They run Sonoma.
Yep, that's an SMI track.
Yeah.
Mostly it's SMI tracks.
Yeah.
Which originally that's what they ran on, was SMI tracks. Period.
Yeah.
And then CART ran on ISC tracks. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think anything that exposes more fans to our sport and vice versa. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's any danger in exposing NASCAR fans to IndyCar that we're going to have a bunch of people jump ship. I think these motorsports, that's one of the things that NASCAR has done. I feel is they've separated themselves so much, even from like the local racing and stuff, that they need to get rid of that, because you go to a local track. I go, to the dirt track during the summer, and people hate on NASCAR there, and they shouldn't be. That they should be working together. These guys, that was a partnership that Winston started. When Winston came in, they went and took paint and painted the walls at the local tracks to make them look like Winston Cup tracks and create that symmetry. And now we're exactly the opposite. NASCAR is the big boys. They don't care about the little guys anymore, and that's what we need to fix. We need to get that back. That there's a lot of fans still going to local races, and if NASCAR can get some of those back to the NASCAR tracks, that's only going to help.
I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to do, because when the NASCAR guys come to the little tracks, the same fans that poo-poo NASCAR get all excited.
Right, exactly.
And we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
When Tony Stewart showed up at our local dirt track, it was incredible.
Right. Now those fans won't watch NASCAR because of stages, but they're just fine with their heat races on Friday night at their local track. So
exactly. Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
All right. Little bit of silly season news. Not a whole lot this week. Nothing on the driver front. Basically, Scott Graves announced he's leaving JGR. He's currently Daniel Suarez's crew chief. He's crew chief for Suarez in the Xfinity Series and moved with him to Cup. He's going to go to Roush and be with Ryan Newman. So just another one of those shoes dropping there in the whole.
That 6 team looks like it's going to be all set now moving forward, pending sponsorship. I haven't heard any sponsor announcements from them.
Yeah, and we're definitely opening up that 19 car pretty well for Martin Truex.
Yeah, you've got the Suarez will be out, and now they've got the crew chief. I think Scott left a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they got the Cole Pernin waiting deal going down. So
right. So I keep holding out hope. I think I talked about last week in the podcast that I'm hoping that some strange thing happens, something unexpected happens. And there was a little tidbit last night on Sirius XM radio on Late Shift with Brad Gilley and Larry McReynolds. Lee Spencer was on there. She mentioned something kind of in passing. They were talking about the silly season and all that, and she mentioned, and they didn't hit on it. They didn't delve into it anymore, and I couldn't find the audio to pull for the podcast. But she said basically, when it comes out what's going to happen with the charter that Martin Truex Jr.'s ride for Furniture Row, when it comes to out what is happening with that, people are going to be surprised. And that's not a direct quote, but she kind of likened it to the Carl Edwards thing. And when Carl Edwards stepped away, as some big moment. And I don't know how much we want to speculate, James, but what the heck could she be talking about?
Kyle Busch and his own team.
It's not going to happen.
So I've been saying on this, but no, I don't think that's going to be it. But I don't know what that could be.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is a team adding a charter somewhere or adding a ride. Would Roush add a team? Is that big enough to be a surprise?
But Childress has a charter already leased, I think.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it obviously Stuart Haas can't do it. Joe Gibbs can't do it.
Stuart Haas is full. Hendrick is full. Gibbs is full.
I mean, I don't know. And I'm trying, like I said, it was mentioned in passing. They didn't really delve into it very much. I was hoping to pull the audio so we could really examine it, and it just wasn't available. So
Levine Family Racing, maybe a second team too.
Maybe, but is that really that surprising? Like, would we really?
With
I guess it depends on who they put in it. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I think we know. This would be the only thing left for us to, because I think we know all the pieces and where they're going.
Right.
But yeah, if there's a surprise announcement that we can't see coming, I don't know what that would be, but I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
I would love a good surprise. There's nothing better than that Carl Edwards surprise, I'll tell you. I mean, it sucked because I hate to see Carl
Reddit
go.
was all over it.
Yeah, I know.
They wouldn't name names, but they said a driver is going to retire.
I know, and I feel like maybe I heard this wrong. So, I mean, don't put too much credence to what I'm saying here because, I mean, I couldn't find anything on Reddit. I couldn't find anything on Twitter. So nobody else heard it or clued in on it the way I did. So maybe I heard it wrong. I don't know. Maybe
Jeff Ford is coming back to race full time for his own team.
Yeah. Maybe I was daydreaming on the way back home
What if,
last night.
what if JR Motorsports really does decide to bump it up?
That was kind of, that was the sort of thing I was thinking about. Like, who would move up? I mean, maybe GMS, but is that a surprise? GMS has been talking about moving up.
Yeah, they've been trying to get in.
So, and that's something that I think maybe we can mention too, which it isn't in the notes, but Spencer Gallagher announced that he's stepping down from full-time driving.
Yeah, that was a weird announcement too.
Yeah, so he's going to step into a managerial position in that team. So, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with that. Who knows, man?
Is there anything stranger than that Spencer Gallagher story now that we're talking about it?
No.
He went to Talladega, immediately fails the drug test, and we have barely seen him on the track since, and then all of a sudden
I feel like that is the Spencer Gallagher story, though.
That's so strange, though.
His whole story is different. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is odd. It is really odd. I'll definitely agree with that.
Yeah, he's so young to be stepping out of the car, and especially after he just won.
Right. But, I mean, we've seen it's not unprecedented to have something like that happen. So,
yeah. Guys come in, and they, and they leave. So,
yeah. So, okay. With that, we move on to Martinsville Speedway, the first race of the round of 8. It is the first day to 500 at Martinsville Speedway. James, I'm impressed. You even put the race name in there. You usually don't do that when you're doing the show notes. So good job.
You don't have enough confidence in me, man.
Good job, man. Usually you're just hating on it because it's like whatever the Brickyard is and stuff like that.
That's probably
over those.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I do it. I don't do anything to spite you. It's usually out of my own frustrations.
Right. So, I mean, is this a race that's up in the air, or is this a race that we're pretty certain we kind of know how it's going to go? I think it's pretty up in the air this week.
It's up in the air, but what we don't know is we're going to have somebody locked in to Homestead.
That is true. Well, maybe.
I think we will.
I think one of those 8's going to win.
Non-playoff drivers hardly ever win races anymore.
Especially, yeah. At this point in the season, especially.
Yeah, there's too much.
There's some guys there, man, that you've got Denny Hamlin who runs well there.
Johnson.
You got Jimmy Johnson who runs well there. Brad Keselowski does good at Martinsville, doesn't he?
Yeah, Keselowski's good there. He's only got 1 win, but he's got a lot of good
third in average finishes.
Yeah, he's run really well.
Actually, the top 3 in average finishes are all non-playoff drivers now. Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski.
Yep. Yeah, Ryan Blaney's been pretty stout there.
That's true as well.
In his short career, just very, solid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not counting out Johnson and Knaus to do something before this thing's all said and done for them too. And what better way for them to cap off, their run with another Martinsville win to get to 10.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah.
So you get first pick this week.
Oh boy.
So who you going with?
I gotta pick a playoff guy.
Yeah.
I made a big stink about it. I'm gonna say Joey Logano.
Joey Logano, okay.
Gets his first career win, locks himself in.
All right.
Because I started the podcast off with why not Joey. So back it up, James.
There you go.
Why not Joey?
All right. Well, I'm gonna go keep the fire alive, and I'm gonna say we get some redemption this week. We already had redemption once this season for Chase Elliott. I think it happens again this week. He gets a win at Martinsville, locks himself into Homestead. And Dark Horse, I get the first Dark Horse pick. I'm guessing it's not appropriate to pick a 7-time champion with the best average finish as the Dark Horse at Martinsville. Probably not a good idea to pick the guy who's won 9 times and had 19 top 5s in 33 races at Martinsville.
That's
but
probably
I feel like he's a Dark Horse pick. Let's see. Who do I want to go Dark Horse? Heck, I'll go Austin Dillon.
That's a good one.
No real particular reason. I'm going Austin Dillon.
Average finish 17.2.
I think he's run well there in the trucks before, hasn't he?
Yeah, didn't he get in a little skirmish with Harvick back in the day?
We need another one of those. We need another Harvick skirmish.
Yeah, we need more skirmishes.
We need more with Harvick. We need to get Harvick, and we need another Kyle Busch Harvick battle.
Yeah, we do.
It'd be good.
So much so.
Who's your Dark Horse, James?
Playoff drivers don't count as dark horses, do they?
Probably not.
Yeah, I was thinking Eric Almirola, but he's a recent winner. AJ Allmendinger, I'll say.
Okay.
He's
That's a good
coming to
one.
the end of his full-time Cup career too. So
You just pick these guys because I have to try and spell their names.
sentimental. Allmendinger's an easy one.
Did I get it right?
Allmendinger.
I did. I spelled it right.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. AJ is a good pick. I mean, you got a road course guy. Martinsville's got a little road course feel to it with the tight corners. So,
And he wasn't bad at the Roval not that long ago.
right.
Maybe he's got nothing to lose. So if he gets on the inside late on a restart, he could pile drive everybody.
Neither of us picked Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as a dark horse.
Yeah.
Stenhouse is a good pick.
Yeah, Recky Spinhouse. Yeah, we were talking before the podcast of our favorite statistics of Martinsville, and I wanted to share my favorite is Kurt Busch has run 36 races, and he has 5 top 10s.
That's
what
crazy.
the heck,
That's
man?
really crazy.
When you think of Kurt Busch, you think of him being good at Martinsville, and he just isn't. He's got 2 wins, but
Right. 2 of those 5 top 10s were wins.
he's Ricky Bobby at Martinsville. He's either first or last.
It's true. Yeah. That's an interesting stat.
That's
Really
a
interesting
crazy.
stat.
That's a crazy discrepancy for him.
Yeah. Martin Truex Jr., 25 races, 4 top 5s, 9 top 10s at Martinsville. I'm
Yes.
telling you, he's going to be hurting after this week. He's going to
he
he's going
could
to be
be in
getting into need to win territory after this week possibly.
He could be in trouble.
Yeah.
What's his recent Martinsville numbers look like? I wonder, because now you've got me thinking about it. What has he done since he's been with French Row? He has a pole.
Don't know if I know how to
in
find those
spring.
details.
He has a pole in the spring, and he's coming off a 2nd and a 4th. His last 2 Martinsville starts.
Okay.
So maybe.
Martin Truex Jr. has never won a short track in the Cup Series.
Yeesh.
He does not have
Well,
he has run well at short tracks. Like you said, he did well at Martinsville in the spring. He had that Richmond race that he had won and then got wrecked.
Well, his last 4 starts if you go back even further, if you go back to 2015, his starting positions are 3-2-16, 1-3-2-1. So something
They don't award points for starting positions.
All right, that's true. No, you're right. But he usually
this ain't
closes
Formula One, man.
It's true. That's true. His worst finish in that stretch is 18th. So I don't know. That team.
He's got 20. He's got a 23-point lead over the cutoff right now, starting out this stage.
Yeah, this stage could get real interesting real fast.
I think Truex is going to be. I think he's going to be in the top 4, but he's going to be close to falling out after this stage, after this race. I mean,
yes, I agree because he's the guy we both think he's not making it to Homestead.
Yep.
We've thought that for most of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. He's been the guy the guy on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and we've talked about the big 3 all year, and we just we've said one of these guys isn't going to make it.
Right.
The odds are one of these guys is going to get left out.
Yep.
And he's our guy. That's who we think.
Can you imagine a scenario where Kevin Harvick doesn't make?
I can't.
Final 4?
I can't. How many points is he ahead of second place?
The only way it can happen ahead of second. He's
how
only
many points
1
ahead of
point
second?
ahead of Kyle.
Oh, so he is. So he doesn't have that much distance on Kyle either.
No. So you're right there. I mean, Kyle would have to points in, and 3 other drivers would have to win for it to happen.
Yeah, which could happen.
It could happen.
I mean, feasible.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could.
That'd be so interesting. That'd be such a great story.
There's so many crazy scenarios with this whole thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's great.
I love it because you can be consistent and get in on consistency, but you still have to be good, and that consistency has to be. You have to be consistently good. You can't just top 10 it in.
Well, and I think in this round you have to win a race. You just have to. You have to show that you are here for the title.
Yeah, I agree.
Anybody who's won the
unless one guy wins all 3 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah, everybody who's won championships recently has had really good runs in this round.
Yep.
Even last year, Kevin Harvick, we didn't expect much out of him last year. Came out, won Texas, and all of a sudden we were like, oh boy.
Yep.
He could be a problem at Homestead.
Yep.
Didn't work out that way, but still.
I think it's Harvick's championship to lose. But the way they've been this season, I mean, there's definitely potential there to lose it in that one race.
It only takes one bad corner at Martinsville, and it's all changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. Anybody shout out James this week? I don't have anybody.
Oh, I already should kind of shout out Todd.
There you go.
He's been shouted out plenty on this podcast, but he reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, man, talking a little bit of NASCAR. It's good.
There you go. James, if they want to find you on social media during the week, how do they do it?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. If you want more of the podcast, you can visit our website, thesuperspeedway.com. The podcast is there, a bunch of old episodes, old show notes, links to the articles that we've discussed, et cetera, et cetera. There's articles on there from some of the races that we've covered over the last 2 seasons, and there'll be much more there in the future. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. If you like what you hear, you want to become a part of the show, visit us at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway and become a patron today. With that, we head to the round of 8 Martinsville Speedway. Hopefully a little bit more excitement this weekend. Love to see some fisticuffs. Love to see some people bent out of shape. We need some mad drivers, James.
Yes, we do.
Mad drivers. Last year we got it here, so let's see. Can we do it? Can we do it again this year?
We need some mad. Let's even be more specific. We need some mad contenders.
Yes. We need the guys racing for the championship to not like each other. That's what we need.
Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick getting into it. Kyle Busch usually can tick off anybody at any given time. That's what I want.
Yes, that's what we need. So we'll go to Martinsville. We'll see what we get, and we'll be back next week to discuss that and see where we're at from there. So until then, everybody, let's go racing.